It's no secret that our shared values face many challenges in today's culture, but you can make a difference by partnering with FRC to reach millions of Americans with the hope biblical truth provides to a broken world. And thanks to a $1.5 million challenge match by friends of FRC, your gift will have double the impact if received by December 31st. Will you join the growing momentum of Americans who are confidently and joyfully standing up for truth? As scripture tells us in 1 Corinthians 15:58, let us be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. To join this effort, call 1-800-225-4008 or visit TonyPerkins.com. Again, that number is 800-225-4008 or visit TonyPerkins.com. Thank you so much for all that you make possible. Now, are school districts screening teachers based on their political beliefs? According to a recent report in Education Week, the answer is yes. According to the report, school districts across the country are including cultural competency questions in their interview process to examine a teacher's perspective on race and identity politics. For example, the principal of Shaw Elementary School in Boston asks applicants what they've done personally or professionally to be more anti-racist. Montgomery County in Maryland asks applicants questions including, quote, how do you incorporate gender diversity and the different racial and cultural backgrounds of your students and families into your daily instruction and classroom environment, end quote. As well as this question, quote, how do you ensure that student outcomes are not predictable by race, ethnicity, culture, gender, or sexual orientation, end quote. Joining me now with her reaction to this and more is Meg Kilgannon, Senior Fellow for Education Studies here at Family Research Council. Meg, welcome back to the program.
It's great to see you, Joseph.
Well, tell us your impression. What should we think about these woke screening questions for teacher applicants?
Well, that's exactly what they are. They are a screening mechanism. And this is a byproduct of the requirement of diversity statements at the university level. Faculty positions at major universities now, really I think all universities, faculty positions, you not only have to submit a writing sample and show the work that you've published and your, whatever the other requirements are, you have to submit a diversity statement. And if you search on the internet for the terms diversity statement faculty, you'll come up with examples of what some diversity statements might look like that you could submit. And they are the typical laundry list of activist terms and critical race theory jargon, all put in a word salad that's a diversity statement. It's a way of making sure that people are committed to the ideology of the university. And it's very dangerous for this to happen at the university level. And it's very dangerous as well at the K-12 level, because you're only going to have one kind of teacher who satisfies the kinds of requirements they're trying to establish with these sorts of tools.
Now, Meg, this report detailed questions from different school districts throughout the country with a similar flavor. Is this a coordinated effort? Is there somebody orchestrating this idea that we're going to create hiring policies that make sure that only the wokest among us are hired in public schools? Or is it a coincidence? Are there administrators in these schools who all have come upon this idea at the same time?
I don't know which of those scenarios would be better or worse for intellectual freedom in academia, but sadly, I think it's the second. It is the fact that university education programs are teaching, they're fully imbued with critical race theory, dogma, and jargon. And so this is just a natural extension then when you have principals and administrators who are all coming out of the same groupthink. They're going to mandate this at the K-12 level as well when they're in charge of those systems. And let's just be clear about what these statements are. When I go to I'm Catholic, and if I want to teach, religious education at my Catholic church, we're required to sign a statement of faith, a statement that we believe in the teachings of the Catholic Church and that we try to live out our faith. And that's exactly what these diversity statements are. They are a statement of support for diversity, equity, and inclusion, cultural competency, go down the list of critical race theory jargon terms that you need to, give lip service to and talk about how these things have impacted your life, and how you believe in them and how you will implement them in your work in the classroom. This is a really dangerous idea, a really dangerous practice. And if you find out it's happening in your community, you should oppose it.
And Meg, I think you make an interesting point about this being a statement of faith, because I think that's an accurate description of what's happening. And in the last segment, we talked to Paul Schmidt from the Alliance Defending Freedom, who was defending a school in Maryland, which is one of the states mentioned, at least Montgomery County in Maryland was one of the school districts that was part of this problem. But the state of Maryland had targeted specifically religious schools that had a statement of faith in their documents that they disagreed with. And so now on the flip side of that coin, we see them also saying, not only can you not agree with those biblically based beliefs, you now must, in the public school system, agree with these left-wing progressive beliefs about gender identity and sexuality. That's the world that we've come to, isn't it? Where the government is specifically punishing one set of beliefs and specifically requiring another set of beliefs if you are going to have the endorsement of the government.
Absolutely. And that's the key difference, right? My Catholic church, it doesn't require you to join as a part of being a United States citizen, right? There's no requirement for anybody to join a church or to espouse any particular faith. But when you go to public school, that is required, right? We do have compulsory attendance for education in the United States. And you don't necessarily have to go to public school, but you have to go to school. And so for children whose parents are not able to pick another kind of school system for them, public school students are in this environment. And these are public dollars, taxpayer dollars are supporting this kind of hiring program, which will discriminate against people who don't make the right diversity statement. It doesn't, if I were to apply for a job in Montgomery County, Maryland, and say that I don't agree with the use of, let's say, personal pronouns for a person with who has a different gender identity than their actual biological sex, then they're not going to want to hire me based on that statement, right? And so this is a way, it's another screening process for viewpoint. It is an attack on viewpoint diversity, as it's called. And this is not a good way to do the public's business. It's not a good way to do to operate in the public school setting. Everyone should be welcome in a public school.
Last week at the Supreme Court, and again, we also discussed this case in the last segment, but Carson v. Mencken about the state of Maine, a voucher program that the question is, can it be used in schools that provide religious instruction? And the state of Maine was arguing before the Supreme Court that it is their job to provide a religiously neutral, a values neutral education to their students, and sending them to a religious school did not accomplish that. But don't these situations illustrate that the idea of neutrality doesn't really exist? It's just a different kind of belief system that the government schools run in this way would impose.
Absolutely. I wish I had thought to do an internet search for a Maine public school system to see if they have this requirement. It tends to be very easy to find. This is something that's very popular, that schools like to advertise about themselves. Honestly, whether they're public or private, this sort of idealization of diversity, equity, and inclusion is rampant in school systems. And I have a feeling that there are school systems in Maine that are requiring diversity statements. And I would bet money on there being universities in Maine that are requiring diversity statements for faculty, right? So the question of how long it takes for that to filter down to the K-12 level may be up for debate. But yes, that you will condemn religious instruction on one side and mandate another sort of faith instruction on the other side is really quite a statement on where we are in the culture today.
Meg, diversity isn't bad, is it? And that seems to be the trigger word that's setting a lot of this off. And we on the right are often accused of just kind of being alarmist and freaking out. And it's often framed as being a racist position to be opposed to so-called diversity training. What's the problem here?
Of course, diversity is not a bad thing. It's the worship of diversity, so to speak, that is a bad thing. It's in establishing a level of diversity, if you make a group of people even less diverse, not necessarily in terms of what they look like or what their background is, but in how they think about the world and in their philosophy of life, this is the problem. And the typical scenario is that someone who is white and it looks like the majority of people in an area that's not diverse. There are lots of different socioeconomic factors in any community that just because a person is, let's say, African American does not mean that person is poor or doesn't have access to the internet in the home or any of these, any sorts of metrics. That to try to judge people based on the way they look as opposed to how they think or how they feel about things. I mean, this is just an affront to the dignity of the human person.
And I do think, Meg, that this speaks to identity, which is kind of the foundation of this entire conversation. And in reality, what you believe is actually the most important thing about you. And they're trying to insist that the way you look is the most important thing about you. And I would argue that they want diversity in superficial ways, but they want uniformity in the things that matter most. And that's really what they're pushing. But Meg, we only got a couple minutes left, and there's another story I want to get to. Out of Arizona, a school district canceled Transgender Awareness Week. Tell us about what happened there.
This is a really great development, and this shows you the really powerful impact that parents can have in the public school system when they're engaged and alert. There was a club called the Coexist Club that wanted to have a program of Transgender Awareness Week, and they had different activities for each day. It was going to be a spirit week. And the first day on Monday, you're going to wear your pronouns, and then on the second day, you would do something else, and then you would, on another day, you would wear a certain color T-shirt that indicated that you supported transgender students. And this was because the leader of that club, a faculty member, decided that it was important for the entire school to support the students at that school who were identifying as transgender, whatever that means. And parents got wind of this program, and it ended up being canceled. They did have the events on the Monday, but the rest of the week, those events were canceled because of parent and I think student protest. I mean, the parents were the ones who were getting the credit, but the parents tend to find out about these things from their students who maybe don't want to comply, but are, because of the atmosphere of diversity, equity, and inclusion, are not encouraged to share any counter narrative to the one that's offered by the faculty. So this was a great development. And I think that we all love and care for students, and any student who's struggling at school, of course, should have the support that they need to learn in school. But that doesn't mean that other students should be mandated to offer their opinion, whether it's supportive or not supportive about a particular group of people.
Megan, about 30 seconds. What can parents who aren't in Arizona learn from these parents and students in Arizona?
Well, you learn that it's important to know what's going on at your school. Be sure to monitor your children's social media accounts and the school social media accounts so that when events like this are posted online, you can be ready and alerted to the fact that they're happening and immediately engage to have an impact on them.
Meg Kilgannon, thank you so much, as always, for your time and your vigilance on these education issues, which matter so much to all of us. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Joseph.